Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of HomoFOMO. We are not a spoiler-free podcast, but we're not cruel. So if you hate spoilers, know there is a strong potential we could reveal info about the films we discuss that could reveal major plot twists or giveaway endings. You've been warned. Now we hope you enjoy the episode. Oh, we got a metronome. We got a metronome. I'm going to just turn that off. Just 1 second.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back to HomoFOMO.
Pew, 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 pew.
Woo! This time, we're going to be deep diving into my top 10 movies to know me.
It's going to be such a drag.
It's
For you.
Yeah, no. So we did Kai's top 10 before this, and of course, lovely, unproblematic films for the most part. Me and Kai have very different taste in films.
I can't even tell you. Okay, so the idea for this podcast came out of a tweet that we quote, which we talked about in the last episode, to which I responded to Emma's tweet, "If you were a man, I would hate you." Which really goes against my my episode talking a lot about love transcending gender. But I am sorry, Emma, your movie taste is so stereotypically male cinephile.
It is 100%. But here's the thing, and this is why, and I did respond to that tweet, I was saying, yeah, but I would be a man that you fall in love with and hate yourself for.
I mean,
Listen, I'll be that guy for you.
Yeah, that's real.
I'll be that guy for all of you.
That's extremely real.
But here's the thing. It is interesting that because I'm a woman, it does sort of affect some of one of my favorite films might be Fight Club. I'm not confirming nor denying, but it might be Fight Club. And here's the thing. I like it because to me it's such a blatant critique on toxic masculinity, which is what the author of the book that it's based off of meant it to be. I had a tweet that, hold on, I'm going to read. I'm diving straight into justifying before you even know what my top 10 are.
Fight Club isn't even on Emma's
It's not
list.
even on the list, but let me just, okay, so there's a tweet that I quote after I posted this list that, okay, so I basically said, Scarface, a commentary on the hollowness of power plus pridefulness being one's downfall. Fight Club, a queer man's critique on toxic masculinity. American Psycho, a brutal showcase of our society's willingness to overlook the crimes of white-collar America. There's some more nuance to American Psycho, but still. And then I basically put, men, I want to be Scarface. That is 100%
Yeah.
how, when I have talked about movies with usually white, heterosexual, straight men, I already said that. Redundant still. I'm getting really excited, guys. But no, so heterosexual cis white men, when I talk about my movie taste with them, I am always so frustrated because we have the same movies in common, but for totally fucking different reasons.
That's a very big pain.
It is the bane of my actual existence. I also have really bad taste in music. I like a lot of classic rock, and I fucking hate every classic rock figure ever. They're all gross, disgusting men, and I hate them. I just like the music, but I always relate to the worst men being like, yeah, I do listen to Led Zeppelin. Yeah, I do like the Rolling Stones. Okay. Yes, the Beatles are great.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm ashamed of it. I just like the music. Can we move on? And then I always get congratulations from shitty men from Alberta.
Oh.
Not all men from Alberta are shitty, but the ones I've met down south who think I'm very impressive for liking Led Zeppelin. I hate you all.
Are you referring to Alberta as down south?
No, sorry. There happens when I go down south to the Caribbean.
Oh.
There's always a table of drunk Albertan men who are really impressed with me because I have such shitty white man taste in things.
That's unfortunate.
It's really unfortunate.
Now, I know this isn't the point of us doing this, but in the last episode, I really think I made a great case for you to watch all of the movies I listed.
Oh my god, are you challenging me to make a great case for you to watch all the movies I
That's
listen.
exactly what I'm doing.
How dare you?
That's exactly what I'm doing. So we're gonna see. I've gamified this.
And I'm gonna lose. I'm not competitive. I can't do this.
No. We're gonna see if Emma can just explain these movies in a way that might have me reconsider my initial impression of them.
Okay. I mean, we can try, but like I said in the last episode, so this is top 10 movies to know me. 10 movies to know me by.
And I do want to know you, so
right.
Maybe I have to. This is homework.
This is, hey, listen, if you want to know every dark corner of myself, maybe it is homework.
Okay, well, this is a friendship retreat where I just really have to know you.
Right, okay. But I just want to say, though I do like all of the movies on this list, and some of them may make my like favorite movies of all time list. This is not my favorite movies of all time list. This is just movies that I feel like reflect me in some way. Like, it might not be the most in-depth reason. A lot of these I picked off the top of my head. We didn't think these tweets were going to turn into an entire podcast. So I don't know how in-depth I can really get about each one of these films.
See, this is really funny that you're separating, like, movies to know me are different than my favorite movies, whereas me, on the other hand, I have no sense of identity, so they are one and the same.
Interesting. I don't have a strong sense of identity myself.
But I become what I love.
Okay, and I feel like that was something I used to do and I do not do anymore.
Okay, well, how about we sidestep the point where you just basically said that you've grown more than me, which is true. And
what therapy will do.
Let's sidestep that, and let's also say, I think it may be easier for you to find yourself in movies because there are movies about white cis women.
Oh, 100%.
None of them are on your list. But
hey, there's one.
There is one. There are no movies about queer trans men.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. And, like, this is where I always get into kind of a space of, like, there's a lot of things about my identity that have made my life difficult, sure. But for the most part, I walk incredibly privileged ground. And I think that's evident in the fact that most of the movies I related to and still relate to are movies that center a lot of, like, white men.
Yeah, just how hard it is to be a white man.
I think it's like, so, okay.
Yeah, we can.
So before I go any further, I will name the top 10 movies. I keep saying top 10, but it's the 10 movies to know me by. So Number 1, Moulin Rouge. Number 2, American Psycho. Number 3, The Lighthouse, which just dropped in 2019. So, bold statement. 4, Mean Girls. 5, Donnie Darko. 6, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. 7, Swiss Army Man. 8, Assassination Nation, which we can have a nice little talk about that. 9, Napoleon Dynamite. And 10, The Truman Show.
Y'all better fucking appreciate what I'm about to go through.
Hey, no judgment yet.
All 6 of our viewers are so non-judgmental right now.
So this is my worst fear.
What?
As I was saying earlier, how I'm very conflict avoidant.
Yeah.
My strength in life is becoming a chameleon to suit other people.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure I've ever had to defend my true self.
Oh, this is exciting.
In this way before.
Well, this is a safe space.
I know. But also it goes against every instinct in my being to do this. And also I'm, like I was saying earlier, I am so afraid of not having a, like, flawless argument, and I 100% don't have a flawless argument for any of these films because, like I said, it was a one-off tweet. I have affectionately referred to Twitter as my thought trash can. There wasn't tons of thought, as I said before, put into these picks.
Well, as a result, I'm going to try and treat your vulnerability with kindness.
I appreciate that.
and I'm gonna try and not.
My fragile male ego.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna try and not be too examinatory with my questions, because ultimately we're just talking about something you're an expert in, which is yourself.
Wow. But also, I think already this is a long ass episode because the preamble of my insecurity is taking up so much time.
Okay.
Which, isn't that a metaphor?
Yes, it is.
Is that not a metaphor?
It is.
Okay.
Okay, let's do this.
But no, I would like to examine, because I think I'll learn something if we examine why this is problematic and shitty.
Oh my god, I'm not saying your taste is problematic.
No, but I
am. But
yeah, the low key, you are. Yeah. Okay. So Moulin Rouge, the first film. Why this film says something about me is fairly simple.
Oh god.
It's artistic expression that I feel like represents me. I am and have been since a very small age a musical theater kid. I was homeschooled. Please take a shot every time I say that.
Oh my god.
I bring it up a lot, apparently. It's not a problem. Anyway, I think if I went to school, I would have 100% been a musical theater kid.
Yes,
I am just because I love to sing. It is my favorite thing. If anybody knows about my YouTube channel, I mean, like, that's where I upload covers of songs. I still do that, not as actively, but like, I'm obsessed with music. So of course, one of the first films that came to mind is also one of my favorite films of all time, Moulin Rouge. I'm also a die-hard tragic romantic. Like, that has been my personality since I was, again, a very small child. Like, anything that is a love story that ends in tragedy, Romeo and Juliet. And if Romeo plus Juliet by Baz Luhrmann was a musical, it would have taken Moulin Rouge's place, because that is the ultimate romantic tragedy. And I think there's a way that, for me, being borderline and like having a lot of emotions, for me, sad romantic films and sad films and dark films in general were a safe way for me to express those emotions. So Moulin Rouge is one of the few movies that to this day can make me cry. And that is something that has a very practical use for me as somebody who can't cry very easily. So like, regardless of the actual plot of the film, which I'm not 100% sold on, though I do love that it centers a sex worker. I don't love how they treat said sex worker. I think that she's caught between two abusive men, which, again, hashtag relatable, because I don't know if I've ever not been caught between semi-abusive men in my life. So I relate a lot to Satine. Like, she's a relatable kind of tragic character for me. But like, the plot aside, it is one of the most emotionally expressive films that I feel like comfortable and safe in, because there's a reprieve of music as well. So there's like a built-in coping mechanism to the raw expression of emotion that happens for me in that film. And they're contemporary songs that I grew up with. So it's like Elton John's Your Song.
I forgot
that
they're just covers.
Which I love, because I'm trash. I don't love a traditional musical. I actually don't love a musical as a concept. Like, or as a concept, I actually do love it. But in practice, it's really hit or miss for me. Like, I am not a diehard musical person. And so for me, I saw this movie for the first time very young. Too young. Like 7 years old.
Oh,
like,
boy.
It was too young. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew that I knew the U2 songs. I knew that I knew the David Bowie song, you know, like, and I actually, fun fact, didn't know that Heroes was a David Bowie song. I always just knew the Moulin Rouge version.
That'll happen.
And I was like, there's no way that the original song could live up to the Moulin Rouge version. It kind of did. I ended up covering it a little bit low-key. But I grew up singing the songs from this movie and like recognized them. And again, being somebody who God damn it, I just love drama. I'm a Gemini. I can't fight it. I love the chaos of Baz Luhrmann as somebody who's probably actually very ADD. I'm coming to find this out about myself. The editing style, the flashiness of it, the fast pace makes my brain feel like, okay, I can pay attention to this 2-second scene and not have, like, there's a movie called Hunger with Michael Fassbender that, like, there was, I think, a 15-minute scene, one take in that movie. My brain can't function with that. Like, I respect it as a bold new way of telling a story, even though it's kind of just a play, whatever. But, like, it's very hard for me to have my attention be held through a whole film, especially now with, like, my phone that's always in front of me. So I appreciate Baz Luhrmann's style in that way.
So I appreciate your vulnerability.
Thank you.
I do. I will not be watching this movie. Not for any real reason that you've said. You haven't done a bad job of pitching it. Other than the fact that it's about abusive men really making the life of a sex worker worse. But the fact that it's a tragic love story. And, like, as a man who has been in many gay male relationships, I have had my fair share of tragic love stories. And I feel like stories like Romeo and Juliet, not that you're straight, but are a way for straight people to feel very oppressed. And I don't need more sadness in my life. This being said, you are valid.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for telling me about, your ADHD. That's a real thing to struggle with. A consumable format that this movie provides. I appreciate that for what it is. This does not sound like a feminist film.
No, it's definitely not a feminist film, and
that doesn't have to be the axis on which we judge things, but
yeah, I get a little bit fatigued. I think sometimes I'm not a strong woman. Like, that's not...
What?
I've never seen myself in that light. So there's certain kinds of women who have been written well and like thoroughly by female writers and have been depicted really well by female directors, and I appreciate those characters. I don't always see myself in those characters.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting. I think I kind of see myself a lot in, like, male protagonists because they have the luxury, due to their privilege and due to how many white men are out here writing white men, to transcend things like gender, to transcend things that are, like, their story isn't about their oppression. Like, so many times when I'm watching a movie about a female protagonist, it has to be written in all of the things she struggles with as a girl. Like, and it's valid and important. I'm glad I've seen it. There are obviously things I identify with, which is why, like, say, Assassination Nation is on my list. But, like, white, cis, hetero men have the luxury of just being a person.
God, that is such a fucking good point. I'm still not going to watch this movie.
Oh
but
my God.
I do agree with you. I
will say this. I don't want you to watch this movie.
Thank you.
I actually don't want you to watch any of these movies.
Thank you.
I don't think these movies are for you.
Okay, fair.
So, like, I would say we need to scrap that.
That's
I know
fair.
you want to gamify, but
No.
I
we
would never
put it
want.
aside.
Yeah, there's movies that I know you would like, and I suggest those movies to you.
Correct.
There's a reason why I haven't suggested these movies to you.
That is fair, and you're very kind to do so.
Listen, part of understanding your privilege is not imposing it on other people.
Yo, that's real.
So,
well, then let's keep learning about you.
Let's keep learning about me.
Only you.
My favorite pastime.
Yeah.
Learning about me. Okay, so next, this is the one that I feel like I have the best argument for.
Oh, God. Okay.
American Psycho.
Yes, I've heard you speak very highly of this film.
Okay, not only am I somebody who, for fuck's sake, I just love watching someone act well. It's like my favorite thing in the world to just watch someone really fully like flesh out and make real a character. And that can be one of the most beautiful, sympathetic, soft characters, or it can be one of the darkest, ugliest, most vile characters, which is precisely the character that Christian Bale plays in this film. Christian Bale, very problematic actor. I do not support him as a person, but as a performer, I cannot deny that he is transportative in his performances. This being the most... He was born to play this role. I have this
God, okay.
I have this very magical sense of things like... One of my favorite songs is That's Life by Frank Sinatra because I appreciate its nihilism very much. It's like an anthem for me. And there's also a lot of hopefulness in it. I digress. One of the main reasons why I like that song so much is because I feel like Frank Sinatra was born to sing that song. And that is what this performance by Christian Bale feels like to me. So that is just something I find... hooks me into the film and keeps me coming back. But the main thing that I love about this movie is how it personifies white male, white collar privilege. It puts it into a body that is Christian Bale, and he executes it just in a way. He's vile. He makes your skin crawl. And for me, this is a total spoiler for the movie, but it's been out since the 90s, people. Come on. But the end scene cements a very critical part of my political view and cynical. The thing that fuels my depression, if you will, which is basically the whole movie is watching Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale's character, slowly unravel, or maybe quite rapidly unravel into the complete darkest pit of his appetite. And it is appetite. It is greed. It is bloodlust. It is his desire to consume women, and consume himself, and to see himself as a god, to feel power, all the things we see happening day to day in capitalist politics, in white collar America, Wall Street. I mean, this book was written as a critique of Wall Street and what was happening in the 80s on Wall Street with the massive boom of cocaine and just unabashed gluttony, if you will, for everything. And so we watch Christian Bale go through, in a very visceral and literal sense, this kind of just ravaging and destroying of everything he can consume. And then, towards the end of the movie, he can't take it anymore. And he desires consequence for his behavior, and he confesses. He leaves a message on, I forget, one of the side characters, one of his boss's voicemail. He leaves a message saying, I killed this person, I killed this person, I killed this person. Oh yeah, I killed this homeless man and his dog. It literally gets as literal as you see a rich white Wall Street man kill a homeless man with his bare hands. It is very literal in that sense. And he confesses. He wakes up the next morning knowing, I've confessed. I am willing to accept whatever consequence comes my way. He goes to sit at a table of his peers, all white, wealthy Wall Street men. He's waiting for them to be like, Patrick, you're going to jail, something, anything, any consequence. And they all pretend like it never happened. He never confessed. They wipe it under the table. There is no consequence for him. He carries on. And he is left hollow by the realization that even if he wants consequence for himself, it's not there because it's a boys' club. They're going to protect him. This is how America works. So for me, that commentary left me speechless.
It so clearly speaks to your dread.
Yes. Which, why do I want to dwell in my dread? Good question. Unfortunately, I have a style of learning that is
Self-destructive.
it's best executed through pain. Yes.
No.
I have learned a lot of really valuable things through painful truth, is what I call it. I don't like things being sugar-coated. I don't like being lied to in any way or things being fluffed for me. I like to be told straight up what the tea is. This movie, again, personified through Christian Bale's performance, is so fucking honest.
I can't believe how much I want to watch this movie now.
You're welcome. Oh my god, I wasn't even trying.
This being said, in your description of this now makes me understand like the different ways we consume media.
Right.
In which you are able to look at a story for like what it is and sit with negative emotions. You're able to sit with, you know, heartbreak or dread or things like that. And I become a character in the film, therefore I need hope and good things to happen.
You may just have a deeper empathy.
No, I think it's just that I insert myself so hardcore into fiction that I've probably told you this. When I broke my foot 2 years ago, when I would read books unconsciously, I would imagine the main characters with a limp.
Oh my gosh.
That is how intensely I insert myself in media. So when I watch a movie, I would be looking at Patrick's character being like, I hate this man. Why is anything happening to this man that's good? I hate this. And maybe I'd get to the end of it and be like, oh, I get it. But that movie still made me feel bad, so I'm not going to watch it again.
Well, I will go back to what you said earlier of like being a gay man and tragic love stories being completely overrated because you don't have choice in whether you experience them or not.
Oh, yeah.
And so I will relate that directly back to a certain amount of privilege and safety I have being cis and white and in a comfortable living situation with a relatively good and supportive family. Shout out to my mom, she's awesome.
We love her.
We love her. So there's a little bit of that of like, but at the same time, the whole idea of like bringing negative emotions onto myself as like a choice, and it's not something I can like just turn off and walk out of, as you know about me. It's not like I'm trying to bring or experience oppression in some way. It's interesting. I think as a young teenager, there was a certain amount of that. Yeah. And there is some truth to that I was trying to create oppression for myself. Not because I wanted to take attention away from anybody else, but because I wanted something to shape me. Angst. I just wanted something. Yeah, I wanted angst to shape me. But that turned into, oh shit, no, I actually have really real mental illness and I can't just walk out of this. So I had no choice but to sit with negative emotions. Negative emotions are my primary emotions.
Oh.
So, for me, there is solace in experiencing them in a controlled way.
Fuck.
And that's why I tend to veer to, like, sad music, dark movies, that kind of thing.
God fucking damn it. Okay. Well, now I understand more about you as a person.
We're learning.
We are.
We're learning, people. You probably know more about me than either of my therapists now, actually. If they only just took it as analyzing people through films, they might learn more.
Yeah.
A concept. Are we writing that paper?
We are.
Are we starting a practice?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Great. Okay.
Are we therapists?
I think we're guys, I think we're therapists.
I think we are.
Wow. Good for us.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Shall I move on to the next?
Yes.
Okay. This one, I can't even wait to get into. I was going to say, maybe I don't have that much I have so much to say about this fucking movie. About this fucking movie. Okay. The Lighthouse.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Robert Eggers also did The Witch, double V.
The Witch.
Just a great filmmaker because he's very, like, true to era. He's very thorough. Good director, good writer, very into his art direction. His movies are often beautiful and dark. So, two white men. What the fuck? I don't know what's wrong with me, but two fucking white men, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
Green Goblin and Batman.
Literally superhero icons. This movie is about isolation. So come the fuck on.
Okay, yeah, yeah. You live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you don't engage with people voluntarily that often.
I don't. You're right. I don't. So on a very shallow note, aesthetically, this movie is home because it was literally filmed in the province that I'm from. A big part of my identity is being an East Coaster and being somebody who grew up by the Atlantic Ocean. A bigger part of my identity than I think maybe anything else is the ocean. Like it is my safest place is to be near the ocean, to the point where when I was driving through like New York and the middle parts of, like, I know they're like coastal states, but we were driving for days on a road trip through inland these places, and one day towards the end of our road trip, we finally came out near the ocean, just past New York, and I physically felt my entire body untense. I didn't even realize I was holding tension in my body so severely till I saw the ocean. It was like instantaneously 20% of my anxiety was gone.
Fuck.
And so the ocean, specifically the East Coast, specifically the Atlantic Ocean, is really near and dear to my heart. And this movie is a huge love letter to that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So just on that aesthetic and growing up in a fishing village, like I said, there's so many men with beards and knit sweaters. Like that is just so that is so it's very home to me. And it was so, again, thorough in its world building. It takes place in New England. Supposedly in the film it takes place in New England in 1890, and you are immediately transported to that place, and I didn't know I wanted to go there until I saw this movie. But also, on a really real note, like I said, this movie deals with very real isolation. I wish I wrote this film.
Oh, wow.
And maybe I would have made it girls, but whatever. It's fine. Maybe I would have made them gay. It's fine.
It's fine.
I'll rewrite it. Don't worry. But what happens to Robert Pattinson's character in this film, I have experienced before.
Oh, no.
I have personally experienced before, where you are... I mean, he was isolated against his will to a degree. Like, he didn't know what he was getting himself into when he signed up to be a lighthouse keeper out on this island with this one other very crazy dude. So he did kind of do it to himself, but he had no idea what he was getting himself into. His descent into insanity in this film, I know I have 2 movies on this list that follow somebody's descent into insanity. What are you going to do? Mentally ill life. But, and Robert Pattinson's performance captured so many relatable moments in this. I mean, maybe not having sex with a mermaid. I've never done it. I'm not saying I never would, but I haven't.
I'm sorry. So I haven't watched this movie, and you're telling me that Robert Pattinson fucks a mermaid?
I am telling you that, yes.
That sucks.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
God, okay, continue.
But I mean, also, mermaids be out here seducing men off of the rocks, like, and destroying them from the inside out.
Okay.
I kind of think mermaid #feminist icon.
This is not what I was expecting from this movie.
That's a very small moment in the film. But you see
that mermaids are real?
That mermaids aren't. But are they? We don't actually know, because what happens, and this is so relatable, and I kind of want to write like a follow-up movie that delves into this very concept even deeper, of when you have isolated so deeply and for so long, and you have turned to your imagination time and time again for that compulsive need to, like, interact with something.
Me childhood.
Yeah. My life. That the lines between fantasy and reality are getting very blurred.
Yeah.
that is something that the movie does in this way that's not annoying, because I have seen that done in lots of film and television where we're starting not to know what's real and what, like Vanilla Sky would be an example of that, and I fucking hate that movie.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. A totally reasonable, unproblematic take. I fucking hate Vanilla Sky. But that's a very like, oh, what's real? Like, it's done so many times in horror movies and stuff. It's not dwelled on in this film. It's not done in a way that feels awkward, or like the fantasy sequence are very forced into the film overall. This film also, it's an hour and 30 minutes, but it feels like 3 hours.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Which is a huge turnoff for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But because I thought the world building was so thorough in the film, really liked it.
This is crazy in contrast with your like of Baz Luhrmann films.
It is, isn't it? But there was still like good enough choppy editing that I could like fuck with it. You know, it wasn't it wasn't like a 15-minute long scene.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, I should hate this film because the vernacular that's used in the film is very hard to understand, because it's accurate to the era. It's accurate to the language of lighthouse keepers and seamen,
That's
of the time.
crazy.
So it's very Shakespearean. It's incredibly Shakespearean. It's also, the story has its roots in Greek mythology. He borrowed a lot from like Icarus and stuff like that.
Why are you making me want to watch this?
Because I'm just fucking good at selling movies.
Yes.
Anyway, but how this truly reflects me is, yes, it's
East Coast isolation.
It's East Coast isolation, precisely, and the blurred lines between what I'm feeling and what is fact.
I can understand why that makes a lot of torment in your life, but it also makes me understand why you're such a creative person.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I think a lot of creative people, I don't think that you have to be suffering to be creative. I think that's a horrible trope that we need to fucking kill with fire. But, like, I think that a lot of times inner torment, not knowing oneself incredibly well, forces you to be creative.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Valid.
Thank you. I like
valid stamp at the end of every one.
like that means a lot.
Good.
I want to collect the stamps in a book and be like,
this is my valid book.
Yeah. So thoughts and reflections, or shall we move on?
I mean, this definitely sounds like a movie that I would consider watching now.
Interesting.
The fact that you combine Shakespeare and Greek mythology in one sentence, that double punch, is very rude of you, because those are things that appeal to me specifically.
Okay, yeah. I didn't do that on purpose, but now I'm...
You're seeing why it might entice me.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I very much appreciate your appreciation of it. Yeah.
See, he's such a good friend.
Aww.
He takes me for my problematic white manness and just tolerates it with gritted teeth and a smile. He's doing so well.
Okay, yeah, let's get on to the fourth.
Mean Girls. So number 4 is Mean Girls. And let's see if we can beef this one up. Because viscerally I picked this because it's a nostalgia. It's a nostalgia hug.
Yeah.
It's a sleepover movie.
She's the man.
She's precisely. Yeah. And like, She's the Man almost could have nudged up right alongside of this, along with Cinderella Story.
Yes.
But Mean Girls, I think, to me, made the cut because it was the first time I felt like girls could be smart.
Okay, 1, sad.
Yeah.
2, I get it.
Right? It was a smart script.
Yeah, it was a really smart script written by a woman and like...
Based on a book by a woman.
Yeah, and just like all of this stuff for women.
And it deconstructed some really toxic things about female relationships.
Did it? I'm sorry, that sounded judgmental. But like, elaborate.
So, for me, through its examination, again, me being somebody who always like kind of likes to take a step back and be very analytical, through its examination of how the girls treat each other in the first and second act of the film. And this is something I really like, the juxtaposition of mean girl Regina to mean girl Janice.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of, like, I definitely had the urge as somebody who had deeply internalized the not like other girls stereotype,
Yeah.
and I rooted for Janice. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, Janice is not dressing quote unquote slutty. Janice isn't out there chasing boys deliberately.
Because she's a lesbian.
Because she's a lesbian. and yeah, and I honestly did have it. I did have a little bit of, like, I've always had, like, hardcore respect and envy of lesbians.
Okay, interesting.
Because I love the idea of a world where men were just rendered obsolete in every way possible. I had a lot of anger.
Yeah,
but
misogyny will do that to
misogyny, living in a misogynistic society will make you very angry. But so yeah, like, to me, it wasn't until I was much older and I watched the movie for the billionth time that I finally realized that Janice was a really mean girl too.
Yeah.
And that she was a embodiment of the not like other girls stereotype.
Katie not doing what she wanted was a huge slight on Janice. She wanted to make her conform just as hard as Regina did, just in a different way.
100%. And I also just love that she was in love with Regina and would do anything to have Regina be relevant in her life.
Oh, God.
She was, like, super obsessed with Regina. Whether, like, I'm sorry, I 100% think that, like, her character was legitimately super obsessed with Regina. Why would you go through all that trouble and, like, befriend someone and weaponize them again? Like, it's insane, and I totally relate to it as somebody who had, like, those kinds of feelings for girls growing up.
Fuck.
Where, because I just didn't think I could be queer, like, because I had so little representation.
Damn.
I would have really complicated jealous feelings about, like, my girlfriends having new girlfriends. And ooh. I would, like, I was obsessed with a few of my girlfriends growing up. Like, yeah. Totally in a, like, unhealthy, and would do, like, anything to be part of their important people. Fuck. Like, I would. So I related to Janice so fucking heavily, but also homeschooler representation. The opening fucking scene when Katie is saying most people think homeschoolers are freaks, like religious freaks, or like whatever. She lists off a lot of the good stereotypes that a lot of people applied to me growing up. I was like, I finally had someone to be like Katie from Mean Girls. Mm-hmm. Like, I would say, oh, I'm homeschooled, and there would be some context. I could be like, no, I'm like Katie from Mean Girls. I could totally fit in if only I wanted to. Right. JK, I wanted to, but felt like I couldn't. Anyway.
Fuck. Okay, this is actually really, really great. Talking about, like, misogyny and queerness. I did not expect this Mean Girls talk to go that way.
Well, where it was one of the first movies I saw that was majority female cast, I think there was inherent queerness subtext, like, just built into it.
For sure.
So, and the way that, like, Janice, like, she was obviously, like, very discriminated against for being a lesbian, and I even related to her, like, not being out and kind of actively rejecting it because I thought those things would be applied to me as well if I ever admitted that maybe I had, like, complicated feelings towards girls. So, damn, like, a lot of this was a catalyst through Janice, even though she's not a main character in the film. But I felt really seen by both her and Katie. And a little bit by Regina. And very much by Gretchen. Wow. Yeah. Because her hair was full of secrets.
And you've got that.
I've got that. Also, she's kind of, like, dumb and desperate. And I also got that.
She was very desperate for acceptance and friendship.
Yeah. And there was part of me that, like, I would never admit that that's what I wanted or needed because to me that was, like, weak. I have issues. But, like, I totally saw like, oh God, do I come off as Gretchen? Like, that was so. I think I've at one point seen myself in every single character, even the principal.
Oh wow!
In this movie, and like I said, it was just really important for me how the movie closed. The third and final act of the film, where Katie is trying to, as she says, like, suck out the venom from her life, and suck out the poison. It constantly reminded me of my friends of, like, right, we need to value having each other's backs over anything else. I felt like I was the only one of my friends who took that seriously. 100%.
It's true. I mean, like, being a teenage girl is a cruel fate.
Oh, I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. Actually, I would. 100%. It would teach them a valuable lesson.
Well, there you go. That's really great. That's a really great explanation for, like, what you saw in that movie. I wasn't expecting it to be so deep. Not to say that you're not deep, but there are many aspects of that film I forgot about.
Right.
Or at least that weren't at the forefront of my mind. But, like, yeah, a direct parallel between Regina and Janice on opposite ends of the same coin. Really, really powerful. Makes me want to rewatch the movie with that new lens.
Right.
But on the other hand, I don't want to really relive being a teenager.
Wasn't that the worst?
It was super bad.
So many toxic and controlling relationships.
That's exactly it. Controlling. No value of autonomy.
Which is your worst enemy.
It is. That's contrary to my core value.
You want to vanquish the lack of autonomy in the world. You just want to vanquish it with your sword.
I do, with my fangs, with my venom.
Oh my God.
Okay.
What a legend.
Okay. Valid stamp. Moving on.
Okay, so now to your favorite movie on this list.
Fucking kill me.
Number 5, Donnie motherfucking Darko.
For context for listeners, I watched this movie once in high school to impress a boy I liked. Moving on.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Moving on. Okay, so the next movie.
No. Tell the listeners and me about Donnie Darko.
Okay, so very hard for me to feel smart, or at least it was. Now I'm brilliant and I understand that.
Thank God. Recognize your power.
Thank you. Again, I will attribute a lot of me liking Donnie Darko to my love of, like, space.
I am giving Emma the most confused look.
Okay, so to me, Donnie Darko is a sci-fi. To me, Donnie Darko is an art house movie. Like, it's
okay. Yeah,
that's abstract.
It
and
sure is.
That's what I appreciate about it, because I like messy things that, again, kind of reflect how my mind works. So my catchphrase right now for the listeners is nothing is linear. I have been spouting that for the past, like, 6 months. Nothing is fucking linear. Only our perception of time is linear.
What a quote.
So thank you. Like I said, I'm very smart. But Donnie Darko is a perfect representation of how fucking chaotic I feel like life and the pursuit of the meaning of life is. It's just like, first of all, I love Drew Barrymore's character, the English teacher, though she almost hits that line of, like, inappropriate teacher trope. She doesn't cross that line. That's why I like her. But there's been, like, problems with, like, the cool teacher, I feel like.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Past films.
So true.
But I really like her talking about, like, the short story that they're reading. I'm sorry, I wish I had more literary knowledge. I don't remember the quote cellar door and where that being the most beautiful word or phrase in the English language. I forget who said that. I forget what short story they were reading, but it was basically about a bunch of boys who, like, set a house on fire just to watch it burn.
Oh my God, this wraps into your Joker obsession.
I was was going to say, and for those of you who've been with me long enough and know how obsessed with Heath Ledger's Joker I was, like I said, I am a bro. I am a bro.
She's in with the bros.
Oh my god. But like, so what I was explaining to you, part of the plot line that I really like is what Donnie Darko does in pointing out the hypocrisy of one of the hysterical right-wing characters in
how
the film.
misogynist of you to call a woman hysterical.
That was really misogynistic. I'm so sorry. Let me just get my fedora. I'm really...
Milady.
Milady. But, yeah, but what actually happens is there's kind of like a proxy because her dogmatic following of this patriarch that is played by Patrick Swayze's character, who is this self-help kind of Tony Robinson / cult leader figure who's like, there's only two emotions in life of like fear and love. You don't live in fear, we live in love. Like, and she's buying it hook, line, and sinker, just like how so many people who are given a poor education system in America and then come out the other side, like not being able to see through the propaganda that's being shoved at them so they can be like pushed into becoming like basically free labor for like the military industrial complex. Anyway,
I would like to point out that it's a fact that people who join cults are often very intelligent because people who are smart are very good at justifying their reasons.
Fuck. Well, that's heavy.
Got that from the Cracked podcast.
Right. And I think there's a slight differentiation between like...
Yes, between buying propaganda and joining a cult.
Yeah.
Slight.
I feel like there... Yeah, it is. And that is something that's important to recognize, that there is like a slight, very slight difference. Like, we're all susceptible to our own scams, right?
Our own traps.
Exactly. But so, anyway, long story short, of this aspect of the plot of Donnie Darko that I really like, or not like, but it's again like horrifying truth, is that the Patrick Swayze character ends up being ousted as a pedophile because Donnie Darko is told by his guide, Frank, the bunny, if you will, to, you know, go burn down this man's house. And so Donnie does that, and it's revealed that there's a safe of like kitty porn in this man's house, and like this woman's dogmatic defending of this man despite all the hypocrisy. Like, there is something about the commentary on class in this film that I found interesting, and it made me think, like, that plot line really made me think about like that character, the people who will defend these people, what this person's like hinging all of their hopes on, and then the fact that like Donnie comes from a very moderately conservative family that's very like centrist, and his sister is currently rebelling, saying, you know, I'm voting for Dukakis, which was the Democratic nominee at the time. This movie takes place in the 80s, and her parents kind of like having this mild but disapproving reaction of like, oh, well, you know, in this political discussion breaking out, and Donnie's just kind of like there observing all of it. And I think that is probably what made me like and connect to his character, that there is so much subtext in the world around him, and he just kind of like seemed like he was out of himself all the time and just passively observing it, or not passively observing it, angrily observing it. So the opposite. And you could see that in the way that his, like, what his parents called were like emotional problems manifesting. And like, ultimately the plot of the movie is just two universes falling into each other, a parallel universe falling into another universe, and like all of the fucking reality getting all fucked up, which again is something I tend to like in films, because that's how I see reality. But like, I think his role as somebody who's like a quietly frustrated observer of like all of these petty human dynamics, and like Frank kind of representing his conscience in this interesting way. it just felt like this really weird, floaty, trippy way of exploring these aspects of life that I, as a teenager, when I first saw this movie, was sifting through. So it's a really good coming of age film in that way as well.
So this movie, in terms of what it says about you, does represent your sense of justice and your like observation of reality.
Yes, precisely. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I think I might watch it.
God damn it!
I think I'll hate it. I think I'll hate it again, but like I might watch it.
You remind me of Donnie.
Why?
Because maybe you kind of like look similar to Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, that's a great compliment.
But like,
thank you.
I think that you're like a very dignified, eloquent, intelligent person, and like Donnie is kind of, there's totally an air of like he's smarter than everybody else in the film.
Shut up.
There is an air of that. There is an air of like he's smarter than everybody else in the film.
Okay.
But not Gretchen, his girlfriend. I think that they're really good, and some people may disagree with me, but I thought that and it's rare for me to like a female character in a film that's written by a man.
Yeah, that's true.
But I really liked her character because I thought she was very, very different, but equally as intelligent as Donnie. And she wasn't given enough screen time, but
that's really cool.
I kind of wanted to be Gretchen, so.
Also, like, to speak to your intelligence, I didn't understand this movie when I watched it as a teenager.
It did take me a couple watches.
You watched it multiple times.
I wanted to understand it.
I didn't. I wanted to be like, oh yeah, I saw it, Jake Gyllenhaal and the bunny was weird. Anyway, please date me. That was my observation of the film.
You just needed somebody who was going to talk about it with you after.
Clearly.
That's how me and Evelyn, my dear cousin, she really likes this film, and she was like me. We first watched it on Atmosphere alone because we didn't understand the plot. Because also, like, this is a great cheat for anybody who wants to understand Donnie Darko. Watch the director's cut. There's way more information in the director's cut.
There's also a book.
Oh shit.
Like, not a book that it's based on, like a sequel or like a guide.
That would be helpful as well. There was some help from like internet forums and stuff. Sure. But like, we love just the atmosphere. This is one of my favorite movie soundtracks.
Oh.
So we love the atmosphere of this film, and based on that, we were kind of able to like bounce off each other and discuss it after we watched it. So we digested it a lot better.
Yeah. I think the most depressing film I've willingly subjected myself to is Brokeback Mountain.
Oh, God. I wish I could quit you.
So thank you, Jake Gyllenhaal. Anyway.
Oh, Jake Gyllenhaal was such a good performance.
There were such hotties in that.
Oh, my God. And he was such a good actor in that. Holy shit.
But anyway, thank you for explaining your view of reality.
You're welcome.
Really fucked me up.
I can go further, but I won't.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so shall I move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so number 6, and this is one that I'm excited to talk about. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Oh. I'm basic. I'm so basic.
Okay, so apparently this is an inversion of Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope.
Not as much as it could be. I will say that.
Okay.
I really do, again, love that one line that I feel like so many girls... I was definitely veering into the label of Manic Pixie Dream Girl. I feel like definitely a lot of people did see me that way and still continue to see me that way because I'm queer. Cool. So men are like, she's just weird. She's so weird. She can make me know what life is. Which definitely... Jim Carrey Joel in this movie. I fucking hate this guy so much.
This is what's fascinating to me, is you can like a movie that you hate the main character of. I can't relate to that.
Oh, he reminds me of the men that I tend to fall for. And I hate myself. I hate them. I hate the world. I love this movie.
Okay.
I believe this is a Michael Gondry film. Who directed a few White Stripes videos, fun fact. I believe he either wrote the script, directed it, or did both. I'm so sorry. This is my favorite movie of all time. I should really fucking know more about it, but I don't.
Says who?
Me, because I'm silly. Anyway,
No, it's fine.
so without getting into I feel like everybody knows the plot of this movie. I feel like everybody understands.
Yeah, it grasps my worst fear. Losing memory.
Oh.
Another reason I would never watch The Notebook.
Yeah. Oh. No. See, this is where you've got memory privilege.
I do have memory privilege.
This is my everyday. I don't remember anything about anything. That's not true. I remember things, but again, it's not a coincidence that a movie with a nonlinear timeline would be something that feels reflects again my view of reality.
That does make sense.
Yes. So again, the way this movie kind of comes together and starts at the beginning and the end and meets in the middle, very much something where I'm oh, this makes sense. This makes lots of sense to me. I like this. I like a good twist too. But for me, I think, again, shallowly, aesthetically, this movie really reflects me.
Oh.
Yeah. So it being colorful but washed out at the same time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Very much is just my world. If anybody follows me on Instagram or anything, maybe it's somewhat apparent in my photography that I washed out things, but with I tend to photograph not always colorful things, but I it's weird. It's a weird kind of, I like a balance between color and gray and muted tones. So in that way, this movie is ASMR for my brain.
Oh God, I love that term.
Right.
That is something I could apply to so many things in my life.
I meant eyes, sorry. ASMR for my eyes, sorry.
Brain. It also works.
It works too.
It enters your brain through your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But I completely relate to that. I think a band we both loved in 1975 was the first time I understood that music taste was not possibly universal, but because every song that the 1975 put out was ASMR for my brain, just synced with my brain waves on a chemical level that brought endorphins and joy to me.
Just massage.
Yes.
Just a massage.
But I super understood why their music wasn't palatable to everyone.
So yeah, and that's a lot of how I feel about this movie, though it
Yeah.
is quite palatable to a lot of people.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Again, I have this movie in common with a lot of hipstery sad boy men.
They love Ramona Flowers.
They do. They love Kate Winslet, and I love Kate Winslet. There's a quote by Ellen Page where she was talking to the very homophobic, horrendous president of Brazil.
Oh fuck.
And she was basically explaining this concept to him of listen, dude, I don't want to make anybody who isn't gay that. I just want people who are gay to be able to be gay and be themselves and be safe, but I don't want to make anybody who isn't gay, except for Kate Winslet. A mood that I've had with me my whole life.
Beautiful.
My entire life. And Kate Winslet, to me, I see myself a lot in a lot of the characters she plays. There's an unkemptness to Kate Winslet, and especially this character. That God is so relatable. I've never been a suave or prim, pristine. I'm a girl who has dirt under her fingernails a lot. I'm a girl who I'll put effort into my outfit and my makeup, but I forgot to wash behind my ears. My hair is greasy. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
So this character 100% felt like a girl who's just always kind of a mess. And I so related to it. And I will say, and the one line that keeps me coming back for more, and I don't totally hate Joel, but I do kind of hate Joel.
Okay.
Because there is a part of Joel being somebody who's depressed and like a loner and feeling dreadfully awkward. I viscerally relate to his awkwardness. But like Kate's character, when she says to him in the bookshop, and a lot of people who know the film know this very iconic line when she's like, a lot of men think I'm a concept, like this girl that will essentially like teach them how to live, a manic pixie dream girl. She's describing the trope, and then she says, you know, I'm not that. I'm just a fucked up girl looking for her own peace of mind. And like I felt so liberated in that moment. Like I was just like, yeah, like I wondered, as like somebody who's super mentally ill and afraid, where do I fit in? Because again, we talked about this in your episode of like, there's a few ways a woman can be, but it has to be paired with sex. You're skewered with sex, right? Yes. And that was never part of my narrative. Right. Like that was never something that came natural to me. And so the way I would be sexualized would be in the way that a manic pixie dream girl would be sexualized. She's weird. She's cute though, and like she's probably like submissive enough where like guy can fuck her, like, you know, like she's weird enough where maybe she doesn't get a lot of attention. So like the kind of guys that would hit on me would always be dudes that were like gross.
Okay, yeah.
Because they were just dudes who thought like, oh, there's an insecure, passive, nice girl who won't say no to me.
Oh, gross.
So it's like I felt like, oh my God, if she can say that to somebody who's pursuing her and somebody that she's actively interested in as well, and she's like very bold and forward throughout this, like she's the one who approaches him, and she's like, and again, it's kind of in that manic pixie dream girl way, but like I just thought like, okay, maybe I can be Kate Winslet in this movie. Okay. Like, if nothing else, maybe I can be Kate Winslet in this movie.
First of all, that's beautiful. And second, I think that speaks to absolutely what I was talking about with Assassination Nation, which is, at the core, being a person for your own sake and not for anyone else.
Autonomy!
Here we
go!
But yeah, like, being your own person in every sense of that world. You are yours. You are not another person's.
Yeah. And though this movie centers the male character, which is its biggest flaw, in my opinion, because she's a more interesting character than him.
Yeah.
Even just seeing her in a supporting role in that way was important.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah. And giving her that line, even though we could have gotten more backstory, even though, like, there could have been more centering of her, just getting that line, it was a scrap from the table, but it fed me enough to get the strength to like keep going.
Oh God, my heart.
So
that metaphor, oh God, it's so good.
Yeah. So besides it being aesthetically pleasing, and like I said, there were elements of Joel that I related to in like his awkwardness and his like fumbling around. It was Clementine that saved the movie for me and made it a movie that feels like it sees me.
Sweet Clementine, which is not the song. Anyway.
But we're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Oh my darling.
Stop.
Stop. It's all in your heads now.
No.
Subliminal messaging.
Oh God. Okay, what's number 7?
Okay, so number 7, and this one I might have the hardest time describing: Swiss Army Man.
Oh, Christ.
Not just a movie about a farting corpse.
You'd think.
Swiss Army Man is probably the most literal, like, interpretation of my mental illness.
Oh.
Out of all these movies.
Oh God.
Again, it deals with isolation.
Yeah.
So essentially, like, the plot of the movie, I've only actually ever seen it once, but it like really landed with me. It massaged my brain, and it really landed with me. I'm also a big fan of Paul Dano. Don't know why, I just am. But it's about a man who is living in the woods. We don't know why at first, but he's living in the woods. And he's trying to get back to like his girlfriend. And then he finds a corpse that washes up on the beach, and it is expelling all of its corpsey gases. Yes, there is flatulence in this movie. I acknowledge that. And I acknowledge that is some college humor.
Okay.
But basically, this corpse that he decides to take with him, I'm a little fuzzy on why he decides to take this corpse through the woods with him. He's like lost in the woods and like trying to get somewhere,
Right.
but he's like living there, but like lost in the woods and trying to get somewhere. He's like taking this corpse. I'm gonna say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he does it because he wants to like identify the corpse and like give it like.
Oh, that's very generous.
So that's my generous. That's what I'm giving to the plot. Anyway, the corpse starts to reanimate and come to life.
Oh God. This is a horror movie.
And it's very apparent that like the corpse played by Daniel Radcliffe, I'm gonna call him Daniel Radcliffe, so I cannot just say the corpse.
Wait, Daniel Radcliffe's the corpse?
Daniel Radcliffe is the farting corpse, yes.
Oh, I thought he was the main character.
No, Paul Dano's the main character.
Okay.
So he starts to develop this like rapport with this, like he starts to become friends with Daniel Radcliffe, the farting corpse. And it's not in this way where it's like this is all framed as normal. Like Paul Dano is giving you context of like, this is fucking weird, and like this is so it's not just one of those things where you have to like buy into this weird concept, hook, line, and sinker without any explanation. Like he's like, Paul Dano's like shocked that this is happening. But like basically Daniel Radcliffe ends up serving as Paul Dano's Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Oh no.
But what's interesting is, so in the movie, Paul Dano is, again, he's giving voice to the corpse.
Yeah.
That's what's happening, is that he is getting so lost in his own imagination. And he's so isolated that this can happen. There's no reality for him to bounce these things off of.
Okay.
So he's basically in this big echo chamber that is taking place in the woods, where he's feeding himself the things he needs to hear through Daniel Radcliffe. Like basically, this is a long conversation with himself. This movie is a conversation a man is having with himself, which I can't tell you how much of my life I've spent talking to myself.
Yeah.
Which sounds a lot of ways, but everybody does that.
Correct.
So you're basically getting an inside look into a conversation that somebody would be having while they're cleaning their bedroom.
Yeah.
And that to me was really interesting, and I really liked that.
That's a good thought experiment, and I like this so far. I really can't emphasize enough how much I wish there wasn't a farting corpse in this.
He doesn't fart that much.
I'm just gonna leave that comment in isolation. Okay.
And I wish I had seen this movie more recently, because I'm sure there's a lot more I could illustrate, but essentially we find out that Paul Dano's character is quite ill and has run into the woods out of like fear and a feeling that he needs to isolate himself because he's defective and wrong in some way. And we find out that his girlfriend was just a girl that he thought was pretty on the bus, and he had like just been like, I wish she was my girlfriend. I wish I could have that. Like, you know, like I wish I could have that life. But there is like a scary moment at the end where he like goes into her yard. And that's when his psychosis breaks, though. And he realizes what has happened. And he's like, I had like a psychotic episode, and he's like coming out of it.
You've really described a horror movie for this girl.
Yeah, it's really, and you know what? I think the girl might be Ramona Flowers. I think that's the same actress.
Oh my gosh!
But she's actually, she understands what's happening and understands that this is like a man that's been like living in the woods, like homeless for like maybe a year, like, you know, like,
right.
And she then like calls like the ambulance and is like, oh, like, okay, like my husband's here, you know. She makes herself safe, but like also is like understanding this is somebody who's in crisis, which makes it, I don't like stalker narratives at all, right? And I thought this movie might be going in that direction, which would have made me not like it, but it swerved.
Okay.
But basically, like, I can't remember the words, but the end monologue when he is kind of like, because he runs back into the woods after this. He's like scared to go back to the hospital, so he like runs back into the woods and like wants to go back and be with his dead friend, and wants to for a moment choose his fantasy life over reality. And there's like this really beautiful monologue that Paul Dano says when he's like on the beach. I think his dad is there and like a few officers. Hey listeners, this is Emma here, and okay, truth, I really debated doing this, but upon editing, I realized that I completely botched the description of the end of this movie, and not just in a way that was like, oh, I got some of the facts wrong. Like, I totally reimagined the end of this film, which is a shame because the end of this film does say something that really spoke to me and did cement my love for the movie, which basically Paul Dano, I don't even know if it's a monologue, it may be back and forth, but he's talking about shame and not being ashamed of his farting corpse friend, which is hilarious, but also not being ashamed of who he is and his illness. And for somebody who struggled with mental illness all their lives, shame has been such a huge part of my emotional experience and my experience in life. I'm very prone to shame. And so his acceptance of who he is and who his dead imaginary farting corpse friend is was really beautiful to me and really landed with me. And I do remember at the end of this movie them watching Daniel Radcliffe just going off to sea, farting away and launching himself into the great joyous beyond. Anyway, so that was really cool and important. I really wanted you to know that about this film, but we're just going to pick back up where we kind of sort of left off in this episode. So yeah, sorry about that. Back to our regular scheduled programming. I can't really remember how it ends, shockingly enough, but like I remember Paul Dano being drug out of the woods by, I think it was Daniel Radcliffe or something, and him explaining to Daniel Radcliffe basically just like, you know, like, you don't understand what it's like out there, the world is so harsh, da 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 da, like, and then at the end him kind of more coming to terms with like, this is who I am, like, I'm not perfect, this world doesn't make sense, but I accept. Like, there was acceptance at the end of the film. So for me, that was like a really hopeful journey. And I remember almost crying in the scene where like Paul Dano was being dragged across the forest floor because everything he was saying was resonating so hard.
Fuck.
Like, it was just like, as somebody who's like a chronic avoider, it was like the most visceral kind of portrayal of my reality.
I think that one is valid, obviously. I completely understand your love for this movie. That being said, I'm surprised that for me, the alternative would be they look like people.
Which almost made my list, please.
Yes. Okay. So They Look Like People is a horror movie. And it doesn't even have that high a budget, but it's really fucking good.
So good.
It's about this guy that falls on hard times, so he gets back in touch with a friend that, like, they had a falling out for a period of time. They start living together and bonding, but it's clear that one of them is having, like, such a fucking hard time because they think they see people, but with this fucked up thing happening to their eyes where they're monsters and only he can see it. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously this question in the movie of like, is this man insane or is this happening? Mm-hmm. So while dealing with that dilemma, his friend is there for him the entire time, unconditionally, and by the end of the movie, the friend who is going through this psychosis does have to like come to grips with reality, where essentially his friend offers to let him kill him. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Because his friend also struggles with depression.
Yeah.
And there's like some nihilism in that decision, but
yeah, his friend, the person who is dealing with depression and the person who is dealing with psychosis, the man who is dealing with depression essentially says like, if you really think I'm a monster and you think the only way you can save the planet is setting me on fire, I will let you do it. Mm-hmm. And that is when the man having a psychotic break comes back to terms with reality.
He puts down the harsh chemical that he has in his
Yeah.
hand, and
They hug.
they hug it out. Okay, and so it's really great that you brought this up, because
Yeah.
They Look Like People was almost what I put in place of Swiss Army Man.
Yeah, they're similar.
They're very similar, and They Look Like People is actually still to this day one of, I think, actually my favorite horror movie.
It's so good.
Yeah, and because its portrayal of what male friendships can be,
Oh yeah.
and a deep connection between two men that is seemingly platonic, but
Yeah.
who knows their history? Who knows? They seem like childhood friends, but
Yeah.
but like the deepness and richness of their relationship I found really profound and beautiful. And then the sympathetic portrayal of mental illness. And yeah, I think the reason why Swiss Army Man ended up making the cut for me was, again, because isolation is such a major theme in my life.
For sure.
So,
And that's the opposite of They Look Like People.
yeah, but They Look Like People is the antidote to that problem,
Yes.
which is really important.
Oh fuck, that's a great way to put it.
Right.
Okay. All right, what the fuck is next? What
Okay, I
trash are we
think-
gonna listen to now?
We are getting, okay, so we have 3 left. Number 8, Assassination Nation.
Hey, tell me what this movie meant to you.
Okay, so we had a very lengthy discussion in Kai's episode about Assassination Nation and how that resonated with him. And I gotta say, I have a lot of the same
thoughts and
feelings, if you will, and reflections upon this film
Yeah.
as you. I think specifically, though, what made me feel very called out by Lily's character. Because it's interesting, I actually related a lot to Bex, I find.
This is crazy, but that makes sense because Bex is
Bex is a little bit more out of place.
Yeah.
Bex is a little bit more, like, there's a scene with Bex when she's, like, walking with her friends. They're looking really fucking good. They're, like, confidently just, like, striding into their school, and a guy says something to Bex, and she turns around and she's like, what? And she's very, like, polite, and she's like, what did you say? And then he was like, you look good. And she just goes, I know. And keeps walking.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've had that happen to me.
Yes.
Where I'm just like, what did you say? No, I'm being polite. Oh, no, I'm a boss bitch. Like, just
Yes.
being like, that is so, I so relate to, I guess, Beck's insecurity. Obviously, there's an extra layer there where she's trans and I'm not. So there's, like, a certain amount of, like, shame that is pushed on her that she doesn't deserve, but is, like, forced on her that I haven't experienced.
Yeah, I mean, she also, like, fights really hard. I mean, like, any trans woman fights really hard to be seen as a woman, and that's integral to her character. I'm not saying that Lily's womanhood isn't integral to her character, but, like, cis people don't have to fight as hard for their genders or to be known by their genders as trans people. So, I don't know. Maybe Bex's intense womanhood resonated with you.
Yeah, and I think, like, on so many levels, I don't know, there was something about Hari Neff is very easy.
Okay.
Like, in, like, I mean easy in the way of, like, she feels like she's not trying very hard.
Okay.
There's something, like, effortless about Hari.
Okay.
And I feel like even though Bex seems a little bit softer and gentler than the other girls,
Yeah.
there's, like a sweet little angel. Like, she's just like this.
I
like,
would agree with that.
Yeah, like she seems like very smart, and there's something ultra feminine and soft about her. And I feel like I have never been a tomboy. Like, I've never been. I definitely have, like, big, soft, feminine energy. So, like, there's a demureness to Bex.
I totally get that.
There's, like, a demureness to Bex that I totally relate to. So, like, but then there's an anger in Lily that I really relate to.
Oh, yes.
And a self-destructiveness in Lily that I really relate to. So, like, if you mix those characters together, I feel like I'm almost in fruition. Like, that almost creates me.
For sure.
So, also in Lily's relationship to the older man, I had a really similar experience when this movie dropped.
Oh.
Like I was like living that, but when I was watching Assassination Nation in theaters for the first time.
Fuck.
And there's so many reasons why this movie resonates with me, just because I am a millennial woman.
Yeah.
So like I related to the way social media is used in this movie, how it's an extension of the selves. It felt really natural. The whole exhibitionist thing of like your presence online, bracing yourself daily for possible vitriol and attacks to come your way just because you're existing, and feeling like you're under attack for existing as a feminine person in this society, whether you're coded as feminine or you identify as a girl, like you're attacked.
Oh yeah.
Based on those assumptions about you.
Absolutely.
But for me, that need to be the cool girl.
Oh.
Which again is what I related to in Janice Ian and Mean Girls. God,
it's so
but the precise way, what she needed from that older man when she was laying in bed with Bex and they were talking about like why Lily would go for a married older man, and her thing of like she was just surrounded by shitty men her age that made her feel like shit. Like, and she felt smarter than those guys, and she was frustrated by how they made her feel. Like, she was so frustrated by basically the fact that, like, they didn't appreciate that she was, in her opinion, this incredibly intelligent, like, fierce, complex, mysterious woman. She felt she was a woman, right?
Yeah.
She was, like, separating herself from the girlhood that she was still half in.
Yes.
And as somebody who has had a really complicated relationship towards older men, I was like, fuck, they caught me. I was seeing this happen, knowing that I had just come through a very similar experience, and feeling like, even though logically I knew better, that like an older man giving me attention didn't mean anything other than like he thought, great, a young woman who's not going to see through all my bullshit. Like what I thought that meant about me, how I thought that set me apart, and what I was hungry for was just to be seen as a fucking person and maybe respected for the thoughts in my head, and maybe respected for like the feelings that felt really complex and real to me. I wanted that so desperately, and I thought, well, age will give me a better shot at getting that from somebody. And that never fucking, spoiler alert, that never fucking turns out to be the case. But what I really loved was how Lily was like, ouch, I learned my lesson, steep learning curve, and then at the end, she fucking killed him.
Yep.
I fucking love that. I fucking loved that.
No, that's so fucking real. What you've just said is so profound and has resonated with me so hard. I'm so sorry you've been through this. But like, fucking men be men. That's not an excuse. It's a reason to kill them.
Be like Lily.
Yeah, be like Lily. God, I feel like I have things to say about this. I wanted to recount the conversation her and Bex had. So when her and Bex are talking under the sheets, Bex kind of says something to her to the effect of like, Lily, like, you can't. It's wrong. Mm-hmm. And Lily just says like, I know, I'm like, essentially, I'm a good person. Please don't hate me. Yeah. And Bex is like, no, I could never hate you. And then when it comes to...
Which is something you have to do with me every day.
Well, yes. And then when asked, like, not even asked, but when she's explaining the reason why she even spoke to him like this, why she got into this relationship in the first place, he offered to drive her home, and he didn't touch her. He just listened. Mm-hmm. And that fucking hit.
It slaps so fucking hard. Yeah. It's like that. I have had a fear of being erased to the point where I've gone out of my way to just erase myself so I don't have to deal with the pain of someone else doing it to me.
Oh my god.
It's like, and men have a really, they're very skilled at making you feel invisible.
Jesus, so true.
Yeah, and it's in this way like a kind of porn.
Oh.
To have a man, I think that's why like romances, and this is kind of a gross generalization, but like there's kind of this idea out there that like women respond to like romances, men respond to like porn basically, which like there's a lot of problems with that, but let's put it in a vacuum for a minute.
Yes.
Let's put it in a vacuum for a minute and say that it's true. I think the reason why women would respond, and I won't say women, I'll say anybody who's been coded female, would respond to that and like eat that up and get that dopamine rush and like come back for more, is because it's like this impossible fantasy to feel like you are fully loved for exactly who you are.
Ugh.
And to be respected and needed by a man, say if in a heterosexual-ish context, when everything in society is telling you you are not needed, you are not respected, you are used like a Kleenex and tossed away, and you will never be valued for anything but your fuckability.
Oh.
So like, so much of that is just reflected in the relationship that Lily has to this older man.
Yes, and
This
it's
desperation for that attention.
Everything you just said is brilliant. And in order to add on to that, I think I can only say, when you said like people who are coded as female may have these urges in a vacuum, the want to be loved and cherished and valued is seen as feminine.
Oh my god.
And is seen as lesser and is seen as childish.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. When, like, for instance, as a gay man, even if, like, I'm presenting mask or doing whatever I can to put on this masculinity as armor in a relationship or in a flirtationship or whatever, when I'm first getting to know someone on fucking Grindr or whatever, if what I'm looking for is emotional investment, that's going to be mocked and seen as feminine. Like, you are supposed to understand that the world is just for fucking like an adult. Don't have all of these childish, girlish notions of a happily ever after.
Fuck, you're right, because like so many feminine gay men are like, oh, 100%. Oh my god, they face like real misogyny.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's the root of homophobia, is don't be like a girl.
Oh my god.
The root of homophobia is misogyny.
So it goes without saying that we're going to do a full episode on Assassination Nation one of these days. And it goes without saying that even though we've spoiled a lot for you, please watch this film.
Please, please, please.
Even though it is written and directed by a white man, I can't co-sign it enough.
I really can't, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know what magic mushroom Sam Levinson, I think that's his name, anyway, took to make this film, but it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're getting down to it on your list.
We are getting down to it. We have two more. I thought my episode was going to be super short. Now it's really fucking long.
Shocking.
It's amazing. It's like, I like talking.
Wild.
Who would have thought that? There should be a show or a movie that represents that on this list. That's just somebody talking.
Is that not?
Uninterrupted into the camera. About everything and anything.
Well.
But so the next movie on my list,
I remember now,
nails on a chalkboard to Mr. Kai. Napoleon Dynamite. I actually have weird feelings about this.
Okay.
Because part of me feels like this movie is slightly ableist.
Okay, I don't remember that much of it.
I feel like it's not clear that Napoleon is just an awkward dude. I think there's because he reminded me of someone in my life who was autistic.
Ah.
I feel like, so ableist isn't the right word, but you know,
No,
like
it kind of is.
It kind of is.
Yeah, I don't really, I mean, there's obviously debate about that. I mean, people have opinions. I am an autistic man, and I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, I don't see it as a disability for myself, but other autistic people have a right to other views of themselves and their abilities. And, allistic people, non-autistic people, have no right to that opinion. Moving on.
Yeah. So in that way, there are moments in this film when I feel like they kind of possibly cross the line into like really making fun of him. And I mean like we the viewer are making fun of him.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people may have interpreted this film this way.
Right.
But to me, this film is just such a clear reflection of my humor. As somebody who was, I know, barf, raised on Seinfeld, that finds comedy in everyday things, like in like little character things in people, that finds humor in like just awkward situations. Like one of the scenes that makes me laugh the hardest in this film is when Napoleon gets a job working at like this horrible chicken farm and it's lunch break, and if you know the scene, you know the scene when the farmer cracks an egg into the orange juice and stirs it up and there's like these really gross sandwiches on the table, and like the older farmer who's present at this lunch break is like chewing this sandwich. He has like no teeth left and he's completely inaudible, which I can't tell you as somebody who grew up in an East Coast fishing village. There's so many thick accents in the older generation where I live that you cannot tell what the fuck they're saying. Like you just can't. And this guy, this older farmer with no teeth, is just eating this gross sandwich and being like, and Napoleon just like stares back blankly, having no idea what to say or do.
What a mood.
Yeah, and then he takes a drink of the egg-infused orange juice and just kind of gags. I find gagging and throwing up really funny. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
And it's just this, like, I've had that moment. I've had that happen in so many ways. I can't tell you.
I just had to imagine for a second, and it's like, yeah, there's a decent chunk of your life that's just staring at someone pretending you understand what they said.
God, every day.
Yeah. And then just, like, eating something you fucking hate.
Don't want to eat.
Don't want to eat at all. And you just deal with it.
Oh, that scene is so seminal to me. It's so important. I think, honestly, the rest of the movie being a character study, again, I know this place. I haven't lived in whatever place they actually filmed it, but, like, this is my hometown. A little bit behind the times, removed from any major city center. And in perfect timing, a buggy just drove, a four-wheeler just vroomed and revved past my window because that's the vehicle people drive down here. Listen, like, we are backwoods. There's lots of weird people, and there's lots of, like, the popular girl who is only popular in your hometown. She would never be anybody outside of, like, you know, as mean as that perspective is, it's fucking true. It's the world we live in. Like, and like I said, like, Napoleon himself reminds me a lot of somebody I know.
Yeah.
Who just doesn't think the way other people do. Like, he just doesn't have the same interests, and he couldn't be like other people even if he wanted to. Like, it's just not in his DNA. And I think the triumphant dance at the end of this movie where everybody in the auditorium gives him a standing ovation made me feel like this movie wasn't mean, that it was a victory, and that it championed the utter outsiderness of this character.
Okay. I give that a pass.
I really thought that was going to be the one that I couldn't sell you on.
I'm not saying I'm going to watch it. I'm certainly not. But, yeah, You live in a fucking weird place.
I do, and I know really weird people having grown up in, like, weird churches and stuff.
Yeah.
This is real life. Napoleon Dynamite is not a fiction. It's a documentary about my life.
Okay. Speaking of, that's very relevant to your final pick.
It is incredibly relevant to my final pick, which, you know what? I'm not even totally sure why I picked this, so we're going to kind of pull it out of the clear blue sky.
Woohoo.
Number 10, finally, The Truman Show.
The only thing I know about this movie is it stars Jim Carrey, and it's about his life being a TV show.
Correct.
Okay.
So, general plot description is we meet our lead character, Truman, aka Jim Carrey, and we soon find out that his life is a TV show. It's being broadcast across the world on a 24-hour broadcast, and he doesn't know that he's being broadcast. He was essentially adopted by a production company. And
this is so fucked up.
Yeah. And so there's a broader commentary on that.
Of course. But there's no supernatural element?
There is no supernatural element. This is almost a sitcom-y movie. But only because it's like his life is kind of set up to be. So this is a man who has no concept of what reality is actually like.
Right.
He lives in a world where he was literally the center of the universe.
Right.
I relate to that in a way of imagination again, where I feel like I have lived in a world because of being homeschooled. There we go. Fit it in there again.
Yeah.
Living removed from a city center, spending a lot of time in the woods and nature and stuff. I kind of weirdly lived in a world that's centered around me. Like, I could have been the center. I played so much in my imagination and stuff that, like, I weirdly had, like, this very tailored world that I lived in. It was very shocking when I went out into the actual world. Anyway, which is, again, something that I relate to with Truman. But, yeah, so essentially it's this man who starts to catch on. There's a few things that happen, like I think a floodlight falls from the sky. Because he essentially lives in like this big, like, terrarium? How would you describe it?
Oh my god. Okay, I have no idea if this is going to track for you.
Okay.
But as part of like a philosophy 101 course, we learn about Plato's The Cave, which is the idea that what we perceive as reality is not real, but we are actually just shackled inside a cave, and what we see are shadows on a wall from like backlit by a fire. And if we were to actually break our shackles and go into the real world, we would be shocked and stunned by the intensity of the burning sun and retreat back into the cave.
Okay, so where the movie ends is him saying his catchphrase, which is, "And if I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening." I believe that's his, and he finds the edge of his world and walks out of the door into the real world, and that's where the movie ends.
Fuck.
So almost.
Yeah, it's pretty
cuts
close.
off before the retreating back into the cave.
Yeah.
But one could philosophize that yes, maybe he does retreat back into his cave.
Yes. I mean, those who are strong enough to withstand the true blazing sun, good on ya.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. But I think for me, what resonates so hard with this movie, besides the fact that I just like really like it, I don't know, like I just do genuinely really like it. It's like one of my favorite movies to watch because it's very entertaining. It's the pursuit of truth.
Oh,
that's a very core value for me.
Yeah.
So to see a character, I feel like I directly relate to him in like as somebody who's as somebody who was raised in organized religion.
Oh, you really shoved those words together. Relays. That's funny.
I know, right? It's almost a skill. Anyway.
Yeah.
But as somebody who was raised in organized religion, and I know I'm treading in like delicate waters here, but I had metaphorical floodlights falling from the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as I got older within that structure and those confines. And it's really scary to go from something you know and something that is safe into the unknown. And I think there is a moment in this movie when I wondered if Truman would go back and stop asking the questions of like why these things were happening.
Oh.
But he just bulldozed forward, and like the more people threw up obstacles in his way because they were trying so desperately to like
preserve this illusion.
Yeah, exactly. Preserve this illusion for him. The more that they did that, the more he fought against it and like pushed against it. That's heroic to me.
That's
like,
actually pretty inspiring.
It is. And I think at the end of this movie, I always feel such an elation and rush of hope that because at one point in the movie, they try and drown him.
Oh my God.
And like he has, so like his biggest fear, they've like surrounded the perimeter of his little terrarium or whatever with water. And they manufactured a traumatic memory where his father drowned in a storm when they were on like a boat trip together.
Oh my God.
And so he was like terrified of ever going to the water, but he was so determined to see what was on the edge of the horizon. He was so determined to just go that he like faced his ultimate traumatic fear and persevered to the other side of the ocean.
That's incredible.
Yes. And so like when he gets, I like almost get weepy when he gets to the stairs that lead up to the door that exits the big studio he's lived in all his life. There's that moment again where you wonder if he'll turn the knob. And the director's voice, which is God's voice, right, comes ringing from the sky and says like, Truman, you can't make it out there. Like, I forget exactly what he says, but he's basically trying to entice him back and be like, Truman, I love you. Like, I've raised you. Like,
yeah,
I'm your family and all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's more important that he know the truth.
Oh.
And he walks out that door.
Oh.
And leaves all the safety behind. And like, I mean, now in reality, he's a famous person. So he's walking into not quite
a reality,
like the reality that most of us live. But it's still more accurate a reality to the one he's been.
Yeah, for instance, like he would have to wear sunscreen.
Yeah.
Because there's a real sun.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I find that really inspiring in a lot of ways because I find anybody who is breaking the boundaries that have been enforced on them and seeking the absolute truth, even though that might not even be a real thing.
Yeah. But
seeking the purest version of reality.
Yeah.
I find to be the noblest pursuit ever.
First of all, that is beautiful and inspiring, and I did not expect it to be that deep.
Truman Show, man. It's fucking deep.
My understanding of that movie is that it was a man who, like, this is literally what I thought the plot was. I thought it was a man who was living his life, and then one day he found out that aliens had been filming him, and that he lived.
Oh no!
Yeah, and that he like was a celebrity on an alien planet, and then he, as he started going around his life, he started noticing more and more that things were like plot driven, and then maybe there was a magic element to this, but like that, I guess, is not what it is.
It's pretty close though.
I guess.
Because the world outside is alien to him.
Yeah.
So.
But just the idea that based on nothing, based on having everything in your life handed to you by this supreme force, that you would chuck all that aside without any certainty of what was on the other side. Just something innate in you driving you to it with no proof. Fuck.
Right? It's wild. Yeah, I think it's an incredibly profound movie, and those who love it love it.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it.
Actually.
I think I would recommend that movie to you. That was probably the one on the list I would recommend to you the most.
I mean, I like Jim Carrey's acting, so.
Me too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of dissonance I have with Jim Carrey. Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, just like, yeah, you're an anti-vaxxer, and I hate that, but you can also move every muscle in your face to make you look like the Grinch, and that's pretty impressive.
He's a hella dramatic actor as well as a comedic actor.
Correct.
So, he scares me, though.
Yes.
All right.
All right, we did it.
I think that my episode ended up being ungodly long.
That's okay. I mean, we've talked about 20 movies and why they're profound to our life.
We really did do that.
We did.
Go
And
on.
it's
Oh my god, it's almost midnight.
it's almost midnight.
You have to work tomorrow?
Yeah, but not until like noon. We can cut this out.
That sucks. Okay. All right, well, thanks so much for whoever stuck through this.
I hope you had as much fun as we did.
Because we had a lot of fun.
We did.
And frankly, learned a lot about each other.
Yeah, this has been a really soul-bearing session.
It has been very soul-bearing, so we might need some cocoa. We might need some sleep.
Yeah, actually. So, on a very sleepy note, just... Gay!
Gay!